streaming live, and it's a great opportunity for you to ask any questions that you do have, certainly around colour, but certainly around any projects that you're embarking on, and certainly around our wonderful portfolio of products that we have designed to protect and beautify your space. So, and to let you know as well, if you're wanting to share images with us, which we do love to see because it's fantastic to be able to visualize your space and to be able to offer some advice, if you can hold off on uploading the images until we finish streaming. So as I said, I'm in front of the camera streaming for half an hour. Great opportunity to ask any questions, etc. But then after that, half an hour, once we stop streaming, I'm still sitting behind the computer for a further half an hour or so to answer any further questions. And that is when it is a great time to upload images, because while we're streaming, unfortunately, the platform doesn't allow you to upload images. So, and for those that are our regulars that do join us, we welcome you also. So it's fantastic to be back here for another Thursday evening. And tonight is all about your frequently asked questions. So as we do each and every, I think we run the frequently asked questions every couple of weeks. We look at all of our social media platforms and we collate all of the questions that you do send to us. And when we see a trend, we decide to use those questions and bring to life some topics. As we've said many a times, we like to keep this realistic and keep it real, true, and certainly make it something that's going to be helpful. So hence we have these frequently asked questions to bring to life lots of questions that we do receive. So I'm going to start. I've got a few here, but please, as we are live, and I'm being told that we are live, which is fantastic, certainly start popping your questions into the feed and I'll stop talking and answer your questions for you. So great time to start now. Okay, so the first question that we've had, which is reoccurring, is about basically, can you please explain the sheen levels and why I need varying sheen levels? So look, that's a really good question. And first of all, I'll explain the sheen levels, and then I'll take you through as to why you need varying sheen levels and give you some examples. So we do have, so look, what I recommend you do, and I'll use Bunnings as a reference. So if you pop into your local Bunnings store, you're bound to see something like this on the colour wall. This is a fantastic tool. So it has paint deposited chips here, and it talks about the varying sheen levels from a flat to a matte to a low sheen, to a semi-gloss and a gloss, etc. So a really good place to start. And you'll notice when you actually look at the varying sheen levels, I don't know whether you can see it because, as I always refer to, we're lit up like a Christmas tree in here, but you can sort of see how the colour does tend to change, because when you've heard me talking about, for example, a front door, and you're glossing up the colour on a front door, it can kind of intensify it. So anyway, the varying sheen levels are such. So you have a flat, and I'll hold this up again, which has a sheen level of 0 to 1%. And really ideal for ceilings. And the reason being is you want a flat paint, so it's going to stop any glancing light. And if there are any imperfections in the ceiling, you're not going to get any reflect, if you like. It's going to be very flat. It's going to absorb the light, so to speak. And it's going to, well, I'm looking at my ceiling now, it's just going to give you a really nice flat finish and no light, which is what you want. Now, the next sheen level is a matte, and that has a 2 to 4% sheen. It's ideal for, interior walls, and look, you can use it for ceilings. But here's a really good scenario. So we've got a fantastic product which is called Endure, which comes in matte. And for me, I would use it. I'll give you an example. You might have a really long hall that has some imperfections in it, because as you gloss up, or as your sheen level gets glossier and shinier, if you do have any imperfections, they tend to come to life. So you've got an old hall, or say you're doing up a Queensland, a really long hallway, using a matte finish on the walls there is going to help, number one, hide any imperfections, but also two, it's going to, as I was just talking about, with light, etc., it's going to stop that light from bringing to life those imperfections. So, and what's more, with a matte finish, we've got a fantastic product, as I said, Endure. And the matte finish contains, so ordinarily a matte paint contains a lot of calcium carbonate to give it that really matte finish. And when you wipe over a matte finish, sometimes the calcium carbonate can fracture and you're going to end up with what is commonly known as shiny patches or burnishing. And so to prevent that, we've got a product which is Taubmans Endure. It comes in a matte finish, and what it actually has in it, it has little ceramic microspheres, so little ceramic beads that make the paint matte. And so you can truly, really wipe down that matte surface without having shiny patches develop or that burnishing, as I just mentioned. And you can learn all about, if you want to understand it a little bit more, certainly hop on our web. We are www.taubmans.com.au, and you can hover along. You've got your colors and your project drop downs, click on, and products, etc. You can click on products, it'll drop down, you'll see interior broad wall, click on that and you'll see Endure, and then you can understand a little bit more. But the ceramic microspheres come from 3M, so you can actually Google it and learn a little bit more about it. It's really, really cool. Okay, so the next one is low sheen. Now low sheen seems to be, and when I say standard, I don't mean any disrespect to that, but seems to be the standard finish that we use for interior broad walls. Now it generally has a 5 to 8% sheen level. It's fantastic. Again, I would recommend, as I've talked, Endure all the way again. It has what they call NanoGuard technology. So again, it has when you put a paint film under a microscope, most paint films contain just one, what am I trying to say here? One size paint particle. But with NanoGuard, it's got that one size paint particle, then it has a smaller paint particle that fills the airspace. It creates an interlocking molecular structure, and again, you can really scrub your walls and you're not going to end up with burnishing or anything like that. And I'm in Queensland, as you all know. I've talked about this many times, but it's really, really important. So the other thing that's fantastic about Endure is it has inbuilt mold inhibitors. So you're not going to get mold, which is really important, especially where I am. It can be quite prevalent when you're starting to get high humidity, etc. And I can honestly, hand on heart, tell you, we have had no mold throughout our house because I've painted it with Endure. Okay, so the next sheen level you have is a semi-gloss. It has a 20 to 30% gloss level. Look, it's fantastic for doors and trims. Look, you can use it on walls. I do think so. I do think nowadays, though, that with the technology associated with what we do with our paint finishes, that a low sheen is probably will suffice. And especially when we're talking about painting a bathroom, I remember the olden days. So maybe not so much the olden days, but when my pop used to paint, etc. Everything was done when it was talking about a wet area in a semi-gloss. And look, you can do a low sheen, as I've just talked about, especially using something like Endure because of the mold inhibitors, the ceramic microspheres as well in your matte, but also in your low sheen, your NanoGuard technology as well. So fantastic product, perfect for a bathroom. Now the other one is your gloss finish. So you've got a sheen level of 80%. So I love a gloss finish, and I particularly love a gloss finish when we talk about painting a front door. And the reason being is because, as I mentioned before, when we're looking at the sheen levels, when you're using a gloss finish, the color can intensify. So this, and I've got a couple of things here. Here's a paint chip. You can grab that from your color wall at your local Bunnings, etc. And you can try it for yourself. So this is pretty much a low sheen finish. I've put over some clear sticky tape, and look at how the color intensifies. So that's kind of what happens when you gloss things up. And look, same thing happening here with this blue as well. I think it looks fantastic. If you're going to take and make the effort to paint your front door, I'd recommend using a water-based enamel, very hard wearing, and certainly a gloss finish to really give it a really good pop. Okay, I've got my first question. So hi Kirsty, thank you very much for joining us this evening. So hi Fiona, I have a very small bedroom in my parents' house where I am a few days a week whilst caring for them. They are elderly and sick. The room has a fair bit of furniture squeezed in it. I'm trying to decide whether to go a really dark colour, thus embracing the coziness of the room, or going a light colour. Any thoughts? I guess two opposites there. it depends on how you want to make the space feel. So given it's a bedroom, look, I think, and going darker in a bedroom looks fantastic, and it does help to create that cozy sort of cocooning sort of feeling, if you like. And there's some beautiful colours that can help to promote rest, relaxation, etc. And you can certainly look at beautiful deep greens, deep blues, which are going to help to promote relaxation. Or you can start to look at colours if you're wanting to also create that cozy feel. Even, I'm just thinking here, going into something that could be, let me just think, I'm going to have to find the colour now. I know the colour I'm thinking of. Just bear with me while I search for it here. Because you can never find anything when you're live and you want it now, but that's okay. So I guess the other thing is, what else? I know you've said you've got, the room has a fair bit of furniture squeezed in it. I'm trying to decide whether to go really dark colour. I'm just trying to picture it as well, what sort of colour flooring you have, because that's going to help to decide on the tone. But I'm thinking you could go for a beautiful, there's a colour called nutmeg, and I'm talking and I'm not concentrating, so just bear with me a moment. I did look it up and I've just completely forgotten what number it was. Where are we? 110. Okay, go again. I was one off. Depending on the, I'm presuming it's a dark space. There's a lot of furniture in it, which is going to darken it up as well. Depending on the colour of your flooring, like do you have timber flooring? Do you have a light carpet? Do you have a grey base carpet? And then depending on the overall feel, but nutmeg may be a little bit too dark, but you could even look at something like, there's pale russet, or there's also sombrero tan. Okay, so you're looking to change to timber flooring. Okay, thank you very much for coming straight back. I don't know, just something like this sort of appeal, you can create a beautiful space that's going to give you that sort of, cocooning sort of feel with something like that. The other thing that I do think as well could work equally as well, especially given timber flooring. Now there is a colour, and I guess it also depends on what colour your furniture is, what colour bedding, because I mean you can take that all into consideration. But there is also another colour, and I've talked about this one before. It's called Black Flame, which I think could work really, really well. Yeah, that colour is gorgeous, Kirsty. I think it's beautiful, and it's got that warmth. It's going to create that beautiful coziness. It's going to envelop you. But there is, I'll give you another one as well. Let me just see here. 133. Where are we? So there's something completely opposite to that, but there's this colour here right down the bottom. It's called Black Flame, and it is beautiful. That's going to give you that really dark sort of luxe feel, but it's going to be very relaxing. It's not going to have that warmth element, but I'm guessing because you're going to have timber flooring, that's going to add warmth anyhow. And I'm wondering the type of furniture, is it a wooden furniture that you have within that space? I mean, either or is going to work really, really well. So if you want to let me know whether it's wooden or not, and if you want any more colour choices, I'll be very happy to offer some further ones. Because green as well, you could also, here's a beautiful green. So this is one of my favourites down there. It's called Painted Turtle. And also the one just up from it, it is called Tonora Green. That in a bedroom setting as well, given that you've got timber flooring, would look fantastic. So there's 3 colours there to start with. Let me know if you would like me to give you any further suggestions, and I'd be very happy to do so. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go back to our frequently asked questions here. So I've already mentioned it. We've talked about, so the next question that we had there, what is the best paint for a front door? I think I've touched on that. I've talked about our Taubmans water-based enamel. Okay, sorry, Kirsty, upholstered bed. Let me know a little bit more. What is the bed head upholstered in? So just so I can picture the whole space. Thank you. Okay, so the best paint for your front door is Taubmans water-based enamel. This is my personal favourite. It's very hard wearing. It once it's dry, it is really hard, and gloss it up so that you get that really fantastic, intense pop of colour. But one thing you do need to know about front doors is when you are painting a front door, it's really important. You're putting a new timber front door on. Most timber or most door manufacturers have what's called a guarantee against the level of colour that you can use. Now, we've talked about this before. Kirsty, you're very, very welcome. Thank you. Okay, so when you're looking, and I'll come back to you in a moment, Mel, I'll just finish this question quickly. For a front door, the first thing that you need to do, a lot of front doors come pre-primed. They are pre-primed. There's a tongue twister there. Pre-primed for transportation purposes. Try saying that really fast. Okay, so I would recommend that you use a product called 3-in-1, which is a primer sealer undercoat. And that's going to ensure when you put that on, and make sure that you not only prime, the front and back of the door, but you're also doing all of the edges. That's really, really important. And then you follow that with your paint. So prime it first. 3-in-1 primer sealer undercoat. It's certainly going to ensure that you have adequate adhesion of your top coat. And the top coat I would recommend using is Taubmans water-based enamel. Fantastic product, as I've already talked about. And gloss it up. When you're looking at the colour, ensure that you look at colours that have an LRV. So this is what door manufacturers, a lot of them, as I said a moment ago, have stipulations around the depth of colour that you can apply to a front door. So for example, a new front door, if you're going to paint it black, so your 0 being black, 100 being white, they're wanting it to be in between. They're wanting it to be an LRV of 50 or greater. So 50 is that mid-tone or greater going up to white. 50 or lower takes you that mid-tone going down to black, to a really dark colour. And so the darker your colour, the more heat it absorbs, and then you have a tendency to void the warranty because your door can twist and warp. So it's really important looking for a colour for your front door. Look at the LRV, very, very easy to find. You can go straight to our website, www.taubmans.com.au. You can search on colours, click on a colour that you're looking at, and then once you click on the colour, it brings up all of the colour information, and included in that is the LRV. Also included in the fan deck that you'll find behind most paint, for example, most Bunnings paint departments, most of your local paint stores that stock Taubmans have a fan deck, and every colour that you'll see within a fan deck here, and I'll just pull something up very, very quickly. Here we go. What have I got here? Beautiful colour, very, very, very soft pale blue called Dawn Sky. If I look on the back of that, it's going to give me an LRV of 73.38. So spot on for a front door. Let's just see how it gets a little bit darker. Okay, the next one down is 62. The next one down is 41. So that one there is potentially too dark if you're painting a new front door that has a warranty. So they're just good little things to look at when you're looking at colour. Last thing you want to do is put a new front door on, void your warranty straight away. Okay, so let me see here. So hi Mel, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Your question is, hi, we're building soon and wanting a warm white for the interior. We'll have wooden floors. Okay, well, I'm going to use a colour that I am truly in love with at the moment. It is as we're seeing, the warmer whites are really becoming a thing, if you like, or they're really on trend, and I think they're going to be around for quite a while. What's helping to drive that is we have, there's lots of trends, whether they be local or international trends, one of them being the modern Mediterranean aesthetic. We're seeing a lot of beautiful Mediterranean elements being incorporated in interiors, and things like your travertine and terrazzo, and they kind of call for a warmer white to complement that. So I just happen to have here a piece of some travertine, and I have a beautiful warmer white here, and they sing together and they look fantastic. Now the colour, for those that have watched before will know exactly what I'm talking about. This colour here is called Aria Ivory. It's available everywhere that stocks Taubmans. You can see it on our colour walls, and it is the most beautiful. I mean, it's a white, but it's a little bit more intense. So let me just see so I can show you here. I'm going to grab a piece of white. So when you're looking at, just just excuse me as I bend over and grab a piece of white computer paper, because this is a really good trick. So you're looking for a white, you're unsure of where to begin, and you go to a colour wall in Bunnings and it's like, whew, I'm overwhelmed. There's so many choices. The good thing about a colour wall is when you stand there and you study the whites, you'll see that there's a gradation of colour going from cooler to, let me just get this right, I'm visualising this colour wall at the moment. So you're going from sort of cooler tones, going into white, and then going down to warmer tones. And so what I recommend when you're looking at whites, because they can all start to look the same and it can become very overwhelming and confusing, is to do one or two things. When you first visit the colour wall, grab yourself a colour chip that's called Brilliant White. It is our stock standard white in the can, so before we go and tint it up to your favourite colour. So a beautiful, it's a beautiful white, and what makes it so wonderfully white is the amount of titanium dioxide in the white paint. So you can use that as your backdrop and then start to layer your other colours up against it, and you can really start to see the undertone come to life. The other thing you can do is, before you go in, go armed. Grab yourself a white piece of paper. Then you can start to put your colour chips up against that white piece of paper, and you can then see the undertone of the colour coming to life. So you can see how this colour here, this wonderful Aria Ivory, has a beautiful warm undertone to it. So that's what I would recommend. Now the next thing I would recommend for when you're looking at any colour, but I'm going to say in particular whites. So I've been to, a friend's house, looked at their white and thought, wow, this is stunning. I want to put it in my home, which is something that I'm faced with a lot when I'm in a Bunnings store, if you like, standing at a colour wall and helping our lovely consumers with colour. And so, it might look fantastic in Jane's home. You pop it in yours and it's like, wow, it looks nothing like what it looks like in Jane's. Reason being is white or colour is easily influenced by its surrounds. So what I recommend you do is you get yourself a large piece of cardboard. So when our paint comes in on pallets into Bunnings, on the pallet, in between the layers of paint, they have what's called pallet liners. So that's a really large piece of cardboard. You can acquire one of those from talking to a paint team member. Grab one of those, cut yourself a metre by a metre square piece of cardboard. Then put 3 coats of a sample pot. So buy yourself, sample pots of the whites that you're thinking about using within your space. And then 3 coats of one of the colours onto that large piece of cardboard. Let it dry. You're probably wondering why 3 coats. The first coat's going to aid as an undercoat, and then doing 2 top coats, because most of our paints are a 2-coat system. So you've got your sample, your sample's now dry, and I suggest you trial or you test the colour in 2 spots within your home. Here's your wall, here's your floor. So put your large piece of cardboard up against the wall so that it's, touching the floor, and see what it looks like in natural light. So natural light's going to give you the best true representation of what the white or what your colour will look like. Taking into account different times of day, how it's going to change. If you've got beautiful timber floors, sometimes if the sun's beating on the timber floors, sometimes the warmth from that can influence your white. Other things, and I use this analogy all the time, you may have a red leather lounge, and at certain times of the day your wall may look slightly pink. Now the other place to try it as well is, so you've got your wall, you've got your ceiling. This time you're going to put it up there as close as you can so it's touching the ceiling in that top corner there, and then look at the colour again in natural light, but also in your artificial lighting, so that you can see how the colour is going to work within your environment. Really, really important. That way you're going to get a true indication of how it will perform for you. So that's what I always recommend. If you're testing a colour and you're wanting to test it to see for a front door what it's going to look like in gloss, that trick that I talked about before, grab a colour chip or brush out a small piece of cardboard with the colour that you're potentially thinking of for your front door. Or even if you're thinking of, a lot of people don't like to commit to colour, but they like to add accents of colour in their home. And colouring up something like a beautiful big barn door, or colouring up internal doors, etc., can look fantastic as well. And this is where you can test your colour and wanting to see what it's going to look like in gloss, brush out that piece of colour onto a small piece of card, a little bit of clear sticky tape over the edge, and then you'll be able to see how it intensifies. Okay, I hope that helps. But certainly, Mel, have a look at Aria Ivory. It is, as you've said, it's beautiful, and it is a beautiful, warm white. And to be honest, it is one of my favourite colours at the moment, just because I know how well it works with so many elements that are trending. And it's actually been included in our latest colour forecast, which I'm hoping to do a session on very soon and take you all through that, because it's amazing. We've got some fantastic colours that have been put together to help you when you're beginning your colour journey, or if you want to refresh, etc. Okay, so Sally, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And your question is, what would you suggest for a room with light oak floor, white cabinetry, collection of blue and white willow china? Oh, that sounds lovely. Okay, so I'm thinking, I mean, you could go white, but then obviously it's ensuring that depending on your white cabinetry and the undertone that has, I would hate to give you a cool white, perhaps when your white cabinetry has more of a, let's say perhaps a warmer tone or something, and then when they're together, they kind of clash, you know, that one can make the other look dirty, etc. So I'm thinking a safe bet might be looking at a colour or looking at a white that sits more in that neutral sort of space. So you can kind of define whites, I like to say you can put them into sort of 3 groups. Oh, Mel, you're very, very welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening. And yeah, fantastic. I'd love to hear back how you go with that colour. Keep us posted. Pop something in our feed. It'd be fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so whites can be categorised into 3. So you've got a cooler white. Generally, a cool white has more of a bluer undertone, and that can be associated with. So whites aren't just whites. When you look at the complexity of what goes into a white base to create the wonderful whites. So a cooler white tends to have more of a blue undertone, and that can be attributed to black tint sort of sitting in it, if you like. And then you can go into a neutral style white. A neutral style white might be a little bit more complex with a little bit of black, perhaps a little bit of red, perhaps a little bit of ochre. And then you've got a warmer style white that can have, you know, perhaps a little bit of ochre, yellow, maybe a little bit of black, even a bit of brown or something like that to offset that, to create some wonderful colours. So I'm thinking that for, now that you've come back to me, thank you, Sally, saying that your cabinetry is cool white. Okay, so the first thing you could trial is, I'm giving you a white that's maybe a little bit more neutral. Have a look at, you could look at Miss Universe, that's a cooler based white, and it's quite white, quite bright, cooler. Or you could have a look at our number 1 white, which is Taubmans Crisp White. It is beautiful, love it. It would have to be one of my favourite whites. Actually, it is my favourite white. And then you could also look at another white, which is more on the neutral sort of space. So when you're working with colours that have more of a neutral undertone, the fantastic thing is they can work really well with a lot of other colours. So, you know, if you've got something that's cooler or if you've got something that's warmer, that neutral tone can sort of play to either. So I would suggest, if you're wanting something that has, so you've got the light oak floor and you've got your beautiful blue and white, have a look at a colour called Alpine Snow. It's a fantastic white, a neutral white, still quite light, but it's a little bit complex in what goes into it to create the most beautiful colour, if you like, and it's going to work really well with the other elements that I'm picturing from what you've told me. So that's where I'd start. Look at Alpine Snow, and then I would also have a look at Crisp White. I think Crisp White could be a winner here, and given that you're in a cooler location as well, Crisp White works really well in areas that are, you know, drenched with sun, but also in areas that lack a lot of natural light. So that's a really good colour as well. So I think either one of those. Miss Universe is another one to have a look at, but given it's cooler and you're in a cooler location as well, I'm not sure, if you're not getting a lot of natural light, etc., I'm not sure whether that might start to look a little bit too for want of a better word, too dull. But what I would also recommend, Sally, as I talked about, you know, sampling your colour and testing via a sample pot and brushing out those large pieces of cardboard, I would certainly do that. I think that it's going to be a very valuable exercise, given that you're in a cooler location, we're working with light oak timber floor, etc., and then you're working with a cooler colour cabinetry. That's what I would be doing. But I'd also be, where your cabinetry joins your wall colour, I'd be making sure that you put that sample that you're painting out against that, just to see how that plays and sits next to it as well. I hope that helps. Sally, if you've got any more questions, please pop them into the feed and I'll be very happy to assist further. All right, Kate, thank you very much for joining our session. Let me have a quick look and then I had better get off camera and hop behind the scenes. So your question is, what beige or grey matches best with Cozy Corner or Saxby Blue? Is it best to go cool or warm, given they are pretty cool greyish blues? You know what, you could do either. Because of the blue, you can go warmer and you can go cooler. So immediately I'm thinking of something, so a greyish, even something like Pebble Bay, Mullany Mist, Amity maybe. I'm just going to see if I can get Saxby Blue up and then I can share with you some colours. Where are we? 67. Okay. Saxby Blue is beautiful. I think it's a lovely colour. So for everybody watching at home, this is Saxby Blue here. So let me have a look. Let's just quickly give you some beige or grey. It depends on how much colour you want. So there's a beautiful colour called Gazebo White. Oh, there's another colour called Eagle Crest. Are we doing an interior or are we doing an exterior? Because that will, if we're doing an exterior, we can sort of intensify the colour, if you like, being the grey or beige, because when you put colours out in full sun, they do tend to, for want of a better term, bleach out or dilute a little. So they tend to, and by that I mean they tend to look lighter. So we do have, which I think is beautiful. Let me just show you this. And you're going to have to excuse my well-loved fan deck. Looking at this, it might be time to change it up. So, and I don't know how much you're going to see on the screen. So there's your Saxby, there's your Saxby Blue, and there is a colour there which sits wonderfully well called Eagle Crest. Given that it's exterior, I would probably go Eagle Crest. And then for a greyish or a beige, or perhaps a little bit of both, let me just, this could work really, really well. Oh wow, this does work really, really well. There's a fantastic colour here as well. This is more of a, well, it's a greyish. It's not just a beige as such, but it sits beautifully. And it is a colour called Siberian Husky. And I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that on the screen. There's those two together that sit really, really well. So I would have a look at that. Have a look at Siberian Husky. Also have a look at, what was the other colour here? Eagle Crest. It also sits really, really well. And there's quite a little bit of difference between the two. And you can kind of see that here as well. Let's hope you can see that on the screen. You can, just. Okay, well that is me. I better get off the screen. Better stop streaming. But I'm going to be behind the scenes for the next half an hour or so. So if you do have any further questions, I'll be very happy to answer them for you. And Kate, certainly, if you'd like me to give you some more colour suggestions, just pop something else into the feed and I'll be very happy to expand on that for you. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining our session this evening. It's been fantastic to have your questions and have you joining us. We'll be back again, same time, same place next week. And until then, everybody, stay safe. And as I always say, happy painting. Bye.